verse 1, after it says, in the days when the judges ruled, we are told there was a famine in the land. This is a crisis that, in particular, we really don't understand here in our country. Few Americans alive have experienced famine, the effects of famine firsthand, but it was a very real possibility in the Bible days. I mean, we see a number of times throughout the history of the faith followers when a famine would arise. And back in those days, people mostly lived hand to mouth. If they had a bad harvest or worse, a famine, if that was you and your family, you could really suffer. Death by starvation could be a very real thing for people back in those days. And by the way, a famine would have affected the economy at large. It could wreck your financial status. Now that's something we can relate to. We may not be able to relate to a famine, but we know what it's like when our country sort of suffers a little bit. We saw this a few years ago during our most recent economic downturn. It happened, they say officially, between 2007 and 2009. They're calling it the Great Recession because it was the most severe economic recession in our history since the Great Depression. And it all happened when we had this housing bubble. It collapsed. And we were ground zero, if you will, for the housing collapse back in those days when it began to happen. There was such growth coming into Central Florida. So many people were working in the construction industry, and they couldn't build houses fast enough to accommodate all the people that were moving in. And suddenly, that major economic engine in our local community went out just like that. And I'm looking across the room, and I'm seeing some of you who that impacted quite personally. How has housing construction ground to a halt? Housing values began to drop. Many people began to owe more on their homes than they had actually than their houses were worth. They were upside down on their homes. Businesses began to struggle. Business owners began to struggle. People began to lose jobs. Foreclosures began to skyrocket. I remember when we moved into this community in 2010, the effects of all that was still rolling. Driving down street after street and seeing dozens of homes on the market. People trying to get their homes sold before they lost even more value. Some of you were personally hit by that. It was a real crisis. Listen, we may not face a famine as a crisis, but that doesn't mean that we don't know what a crisis feels like. And it may come in all kinds of ways, but we're faced in those kind of dark moments sometimes. We face them. The last struggle this family faced was the toughest. And they suffered from the darkness of loss, the loss of life. So this famine hits.